Today, we're talking about one of the most ambitious and, yeah, most controversial tech projects ever attempted, India's Aadhaar. It is the biggest biometric ID system on the entire planet.
So let me ask you something. How do you prove that you're, well, you? You probably reach for a driver's license, maybe a passport. Simple enough, right? But now imagine this. You need one card to vote, a totally different one for your taxes, and another one just to get food subsidies. Imagine trying to juggle half a dozen different IDs.
Well, that wasn't just some hypothetical. Before 2009, that was the reality for hundreds of millions of people in India. You had this whole collection of different cards and papers, each for one specific thing. There was no single go-to proof of identity that worked everywhere. In fact, a government commission pointed this out way back in 2001, saying, hey, none of these systems can handle a country with over 1 billion people.
So, to fix this giant puzzle, India came up with a really radical idea. What if there was just one number? A single, unique 12-digit number for every single resident. Basically, the one identifier to rule them all. And that right there is the story of Aadhaar. We're talking about a project that signed up more than 1 billion people, completely changed how government services work, and, you guessed it, kicked off some really intense debates about privacy and security.
All right, so how does this whole thing actually work under the hood?
Okay, the basic idea is pretty straightforward. When you sign up for Aadhaar, you give them the usual stuff. Name, address, you know the drill. But here's the crucial part. You also give them your biometrics, and I mean all of them, all 10 fingerprints and scans of both of your eyes. That data gets tied to your unique 12-digit number, all managed by an agency called the UIDAI. Now, this diagram might look a little complicated, and yeah, the tech behind it is, but the main idea for checking who you are was designed to be super simple. Let's say a bank needs to make sure you're really you. They don't get to see all your personal info. Nope. They just send a request with your Aadhaar number and maybe your fingerprint, and the big central database sends back just one thing, a simple yes or a no. That's it. Your identity gets confirmed, but your private data stays put.
And this yes-no idea is baked right into the system's DNA. I mean, the official tech documents for developers literally say no personal identity information is returned. The whole point was to build this massive system that could prove you're you without ever having to show anyone who you are.
So you have this incredibly powerful verification tool. And the idea was that it would have huge real-world benefits, right? Everything from helping people without bank accounts finally open one, to the really big one, fighting fraud and making government services way more efficient.
And check this out for impact. In just 1 year, between 2014 and 2015, the Indian government said it saved 127 billion rupees. At the time, that was over $2 billion US dollars. And that was just from subsidies for cooking gas. So how they do it? Simple. By linking the payments to Aadhaar, they could weed out all the so-called ghost beneficiaries. You know, fake or duplicate accounts that were just draining money from the system.
Pretty soon, Aadhaar became a huge part of everyday financial life. For instance, it became mandatory to link it to your PAN card, which is what you need to file taxes. The whole process uses the Aadhaar system to prove it's you online, making things smoother and basically connecting your financial identity directly to your biometric one.
But you can probably see where this is going. When you create a single central database with the biometric info of more than 1 billion people, well, you also create a massive target. And it wasn't long before some serious cracks started to show. This is a wild story. Back in 2018, the former head of the whole Aadhaar authority, a guy named R.S. Sharma, was so sure the system was foolproof that he did something pretty gutsy. He posted his own 12-digit Aadhaar number on Twitter and basically dared anyone to try and harm him with it.
Yeah, the internet responded. Fast. Ethical hackers and researchers took him up on that challenge, and within hours, by connecting his Aadhaar number to other, less secure databases, they found and published a ton of his personal info. It was a pretty stark reminder of just how tangled up all our digital information really is.
And this wasn't just a one-off thing either. A year before that, in 2017, some overeager enrollment agency tweeted out a photo of the application form for superstar cricketer MS Dhoni. His personal data just out there for everyone. And this pointed to a really critical vulnerability. Maybe the biggest weak spot wasn't the central database itself, but the huge network of people and companies that had access to the data. And this gets to a really fundamental and honestly kind of scary problem. Think about it. If your password gets stolen, you just change it, right? It's annoying, but you move on. But your fingerprint,
You can't get a new one. It's permanent. You leave it everywhere. If that data gets stolen, it's compromised forever.
So, with all these concerns piling up, something had to change. The authorities are now actually rethinking the physical Aadhaar card itself, trying to build something more secure and private for the future.
And here's a look at that new direction. The card today has your photo, name, address, the whole 12-digit number, all printed right there. Now look at the proposed new card. All you'd see is your photo and a QR code. That's it. Nothing else.
The thinking behind this is actually really smart. If you take all that personal data off the front of the card, people are less likely to treat it like a regular ID, photocopying it and leaving those copies lying around. Instead, to verify who you are, you'd have to use the secure QR code. And that puts you, the user, back in control of who sees your information. So when you step back, the story of Aadhaar is really this giant, real-world experiment. And it forces all of us to think about a huge question. It shows the incredible power of digital ID to make things more efficient and to include more people. But it also throws the massive risks to our privacy and security right in our faces. In a world that's only getting more digital, trying to find that perfect balance between convenience and privacy, well, that's a challenge every single one of us is going to have to deal with.